Next time you're in Dollar Tree, head on over to the Crafter Squares section and grab you some of these craft wood pieces. We're going to be using them to create a set of fake wood candles. Now, of course, I bought two because you just never know, and I wasn't sure if I was going to mess up on the first one. We're just going to put that to the side. We're really just going to use one. And then we're going to need some bases. I had these in my stash, so I'm going to be using them. And I mean by them because I found two. Okay, so that's why you get it. I mean, you use whatever you want. They were in my stash. They were free. We're rolling on with it. And then we're going to bring on in the miter shears. But in an effort to be fully transparent, people, this was not easy, okay? I wouldn't recommend using these. In fact, use a miter box, at least, if you don't want to mess with big saws. Mother of wood. I trimmed the rest of them down off camera because I needed to use cuss words and the algorithms usually frown upon that kind of thing. While those pieces were in a timeout, I then went looking for some cute little accents for our candles, and I didn't like any of my options in my wood appliques, so I busted out my resin molds. These are IOD resin molds, and no, I do not make them. I usually purchase them from my friend over at Tracy's Crafty Creations, and one of my administrators that helps me out on YouTube, whatnot, and Facebook, she likes to make them and she will send them to me. And no, I don't mess with resin. So if that was your next question in the comments, I hope that answered your question. Now, I wanted to cut this in half so it, fit on the candle. That happened. Where'd it go? And I obviously needed a different design for the other candle, so I cut the other piece down again and didn't have to go looking too far for those pieces. To attach everything, I'm just going to be using my favorite Titebond Quick and Thick. This stuff is great. If you have not used this, I don't know what you're waiting for. And if you're a beginner at crafting, hot glue is not the cure-all to crafting, okay? It's not. Grab you some of this stuff or get regular Titebond, or some Gorilla Glue gel. I support that too. I still love me some Gorilla Glue gel. I added some clamps on these just to make sure that nothing was going anywhere, and then set these to the side for about 10 minutes to get a nice little hold on there. I was not trying to bust out a jigsaw and make flames. So lucky for me, I had these wood bits in my stash. Another easy way to be able to do this if you don't have anything like this is to just take a piece of foam board and trim that out with an X-Acto knife. That will work well also. Now you can obviously just use one little piece of wood if you wanted to, but I wanted to be extra here, okay? Just roll with me. And then I took my miter shears and nipped the bottom of both of these sets. And to attach everything, I just grabbed some more of that Titebond Quick and Thick and smushed in between both of our little pieces and let them dry off on the side. For our paint color, I'm gonna be using this Apple Barrel Territorial Beige. Wanted to go a little neutral with this. Absolutely take this idea, remix it, use whatever colors works best for your decor. I painted every section of this set brown except for this little piece. Now you might be asking yourself, Brandy, what do we need this for? Well, I was trying to put our candles down and they were flopping, so we need a little bit of a brace. Chopped this off and glued this on the back, made sure I had enough to kind of roll around so all the sections that we're going to be touching the base, our wood candle, and our little bit were all together. I then took some more of our Titebond Quick and Thick and put a little line right on the top and glued our flame upon our candle pillar. For our flame, I'm just going to be using the color Ivory. It's like an antique white. You guys use whatever color you want. I'm just going to paint the whole flame one solid color, and then I'm going to take my TDS Creative fan brush and dry brush around our little molds so those details really pop, and then I'm going to put a nice dry brushed layer around the base of our pieces. I picked this large cutting board piece up for just $3 at Dollar Tree. They have these in their plus section and I absolutely love grabbing them. I think they're a little bit more now with the price increase, but they're perfect for DIYs. And we're going to add this crusty, rusty paintbrush to the mix. I know what you're thinking. I think I know what you're thinking. Just roll on with me. We're going to transform this piece into a artsy, literally, creative wall decor piece. Okay, I want to be able to create something for crafters as a crafter piece of wall decor, if that makes any sense. And first up, we're going to need to put a base coat on this for our decoupage portion. You can absolutely sand these down if you want to get rid of the words, but I just decided to paint on over it with some chalk paint. We're going to then take some of my TDS Creative Decoupage tissue paper and put right on the front of our cutting board. Now I just trimmed out a section and then I took the rest and I folded it up, and I like to keep mine in bins for the excess because these sheets are really, really large, so I usually have extra. For the application portion, we're going to be using one of my TDS Creative Artist brushes. This is a 3-inch nylon brush. You can absolutely use whatever you would like for your application. I'm going to use some good old Mod Podge for our medium. Now, with the tissue paper, it's pretty giving. If you've never decoupaged before, I highly recommend starting out with a rice paper or a tissue paper over a napkin. They're not as forgiving as this, and usually less is more. But with the tissue paper, and I've been doing this fairly long, you can put a decent amount, spray the back of the tissue paper, and then do at least half the section if it's a larger project, and it still minimizes the wrinkles. Or feel free to just do a whole layer all over the whole piece, allow that to dry, and then use the iron on method for your application if wrinkles are a big deal to you. Now, I like to use a dry kitchen sponge. This is dry, it is not wet, okay? And I just cut them down in sections. This one's missing a little piece because I like to do random-ish with my sponges, so I just cut little bits off as I go. Anyhow, when I was happy with how this side was applied, I then took more Mod Podge and applied the other side. And of course, I had to find at least one gross little Mod Podge booger. Ugh, why? Why does it gross me out so bad? All right, focus, Brandy. Now, once I had this applied on here, I took some Mod Podge, a decent amount, and sprayed a little bit of water on the top, and then smooshed the Mod Podge right down on top of the decoupage tissue paper. If you are a beginner, do not do this, okay? Let your piece completely dry first. I've been doing this technique for years, and this is my own tissue paper, and I know how it applies and I know how to utilize it. Not all tissue paper is created equally. Now you'll see here that I put a super thin layer and there are minimal wrinkles. If this is a problem for you, do not do this, especially use the iron-on method. That's a whole nother video and a whole nother technique. But while that's drying, it's time for us to jazz up our little paintbrush. And I'm just going to take a little bit of red paint and a little bit of antique wax to paint on the top of our brush. You could absolutely put IOD molds on here. You could use transfers. There are so many different ways that you could get a little bit more creative with this brush. But for me, this is exactly how I wanted to keep it. So this way we could add a little bit of gold gilding wax onto the ferrule. I always get that confused, which is a little metal piece of round that holds our bristles into the brush, and jazz that up so it gives it a little bit of pop against our beautiful decoupage tissue paper. And if you don't want to take this exact idea, this is just another creative way that you can upcycle some paint brushes. So if you see them at thrift stores or you have some laying around, you don't need to put them in the landfill, just repurpose them suckers. For this next part, I wanted to create like a little label. You could use whatever you would like for this. I had these little chalkboard tags from Dollar Tree and just cut the hole off. You could also fill this in. It's completely up to you. I decided I wanted to just cut the hole off, and I just reshaped it so it made sense to go onto our cutting board. Then I added a little layer of white paint and let this dry. Now I checked on the cutting board and it was also dry, and wanted to show you that even once it's dry, the wrinkles are minimal, and I was very happy with this. But again, if you want no wrinkles, use a different technique. I then sanded off the excess and used an X-Acto knife to pop out our hole. Since I'm going to be putting a transfer on top of our tag, it's always a good idea to put a layer of sealer over the paint if the paint hasn't had 24 to 48 hours to dry. And the reason why that's important is because if you try to put a transfer down on paint that hasn't cured, it will peel right back up. Now, people, I can never remember the names of these little things, but I have them in my stash, and I grabbed some, painted them gold, and then we needed to nip the backs off. I think these always look cute on like the sides of little tags. They just add a little something, and I've done this so many times, but for some reason this time my crafty brain wasn't braining. Ow! Oh my god. Ow, 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 it's bleeding. All right, people, just because I know a lot of you are going to be in the comments asking if I'm okay, and I pride myself, if nothing else, on transparency and realism on this channel. So we cut the fancy DIYs. So like y'all can see, like I'm still in the process of making sure it is closing up and the blood is slowly but surely stopping. I'm going to put a Band-Aid on it and wait a couple more. Yeah, I'm a little shaky. Don't do that. Instead, get yourself like a little baggie or something. And then I've probably done this hundreds of times and I've never, ever, ever cut myself. But today was the day. Today was the day. One of you needed to learn this valuable lesson. It's all right. I'll take the shot for it. Now back to our regularly scheduled DIY. And of course, let's get rid of these death shears. All right. Now, I grabbed one of my TDS Creative transfers and cut out a little word on the bottom here. Obviously, I picked create, right? It would be creative. So we're just going to grab this little word and then rub it right on to our tag that we bled over. Little tag that we bled over. Oh, Lord, can't say I don't put my blood, sweat, and tears into creating. God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. People, create your hanger however you would like. I didn't want to glue anything down in case I wanted to switch it out and give you guys an idea. You could use this if you like music, video games, whatever. It's just a creative way to take a hobby and utilize it into decor in your home. I'm always looking for some creative ideas to transform the little wood boxes at Dollar Tree. At least that's what I call these. These are like the nesting boxes. It's the larger one. And these are some snowmen, you know, look at them. The larger snowmen, of course. We're going to be using them for pegs because in case you haven't guessed, we're going to transform this into a riser, but like a drawer riser with the old rusty, crusty drawer handle that I had in my stash from an estate sale. To attach everything, we're going to be using my Titebond Quick and Thick. Now, a lot of times I'll use hot glue for a quick hold and the wood glue for the long hold, but it's been in my experience that whenever I'm doing legs on anything, them suckers will snap off later, and that kind of ticks me off. So I'm just going to be using my Quick and Thick today, and then I'm going to have to suck it up and allow this to dry for 24 hours. But I tell you what, it was absolutely worth it because look at these wiggles. Look at them. They're not moving. They're not budging, people. They were on there. Now, if this were a thicker drawer, a real drawer, whatever, I would have left these pieces on here. But since it wasn't, I decided to just drill holes so that these parts would fit in and then glue it down. You go about this however you want. A little hack I like to use if I'm not using the painter's tape to find holes is to just take a marker and then press our piece down. and it'll show you exactly where you need to drill. Obviously, take your time and find the right size drill bit, and then bring on in the drill. Welcome to drill. Okay, use whatever kind of drill you want. This is what we're using. I'm a Ryobi fan, okay? And I put that bit in here and then just drilled my holes. Be careful so you don't hurt yourself. Then I grabbed my Tight Bond Quick and Thick, put a nice healthy layer inside the holes and across the top, and pressed our drawer pull right on down there. You can leave it like this if you want. I decided to go one extra step, okay, and went and grabbed some little, I've just discovered these people, so I gotta bring it to my audience's attention because I love you. These are little filigree pieces. Amazon filigree. No, they're not in my shop, okay, but I'm telling you, they're called filigree pieces. Type in Amazon. I found them. Okay, I found these for ornaments I'm working on. That's a whole nother, that's Christmas next year. We'll talk about that later. Okay, moving on. Filigree in Amazon. They're flexible. They're real thin. They're, you know, and you can put them on your craft projects, and they're ornate, and I love them. Okay, clamp them down. They give your projects a little something something. Thank me later. And bonus, they're not that expensive and you get a whole bunch. So I was super happy about that. I let these dry for a couple hours, then removed our clamps and came on in with some paints. You can use whatever color you want. I wanted to create an almost dirty looking drawer. I wanted it to look like this thing was like really old. This would look cool on some old reclaimed wood. You know what I'm saying? You take that paint, you do a nice layer, you grab your antique wax, make sure you smush it in all the creases, take some water, spritz all over your piece, and then pull it back, and it just makes the most beautiful faux dirt look. Now, if you want to, you will never see me grabbing real dirt and rubbing it on anything. You got the wrong craft channel, okay? I'll show you if my OCD doesn't let me go there, okay? I don't mind getting my hands dirty, but I got limits. You know what I'm saying? I got limits. Just take your time. Be patient with it. There's really no right or wrong way. You could use a baby wipe if you want, but I just use a dry little piece of paper towel and love how this piece turned out. As always, people, thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. If you want to check out any of the TDS creative products that I used in this video, stop on over to my website, thediystruggle.com, and add to your creative stash today. Until next time.